Perceptions of Value, Michael Jordan and the First Date Interview by authors Ori Braffman and Ron Braffman. The Power of First Impressions. How important is the first impression to you? Many individuals do not realize the importance of a first impression. Authors Ori Braffman and Ron Braffman discuss how quickly we are to diagnose a person as approachable or standoffish before deciding whether or not we want to engage in a conversation. Pick early and wisely, and you can grab yourself a future superstar. The NBA draft is the one time of the year that players are all awaiting the decision of the NBA teams to decide where they will be contributing their talents. The order in which a player is chosen is thought to demonstrate a lot about the player, or so we think. Welcome to the NBA draft, where choosing the right player can make all the difference. Barry Stahl and Hei Hoang are two economists who have developed an empirical method for judging who the best NBA players are. 3 categories that measure skill were developed: scoring, toughness, and quickness. But what they found most valuable was the player's draft selection order. Every increment in the draft number, for example, getting drafted 9th instead of 8th, decreased playing time by as much as 23 minutes. The diagnosis bias. The diagnosis bias means our propensity to label people, ideas, or things based on our initial opinions of them. We have an inability to reconsider those judgments once we've made them. Draft example. When a player is known as a low pick, coaches and the public in general let the diagnosis cloud their perception of him. Interviewee example. Individuals being interviewed are judged in the first few minutes. This goes back to the first impressions they give off to the person interviewing them. The similarities and differences between first-year NBA players and the interviewee. The first-year NBA player is an athlete. He or she undergoes intensive physical training and uses physical skill to impress the public. On the other hand, the interviewee is an individual searching for a job in healthcare or any employment opportunity, uses resume to impress potential employer, and practices interview questions. The similarities they both share are that they are judged the moment they walk in. If chosen, they are the best fit. If chosen, they are the best to contribute their skills. They both want the job, and they are both nervous and intimidated. How does a single word have the power to alter our perception? A single word has the power to alter our whole perception of another person, and possibly sour the relationship before it even begins. When we hear a description of someone, no matter how brief, it inevitably shapes our experience of that person. The first date. First impressions can be totally wrong. Individuals who go on the first date get a certain impression, keep dating the person, then over time see the reality of the person. How does this connect with job interviews? The same thing occurs in job interviews. You've got a very limited time exposure. Applicants put on their best show, and not surprisingly, you just don't see the reality of the person in just 20 minutes. The first date job interview. Professor Alan Huffcut has studied one of the most important diagnostic moments we encounter, the job interview. This is the most dominant form of applicant selection. Huffcut points out that applicants prepare for these typical questions and have developed a standard answer. The interviewee typically has broad knowledge of what questions will be asked, so they will try to be prepared as best as they can. Listed are the top 10 most used interview questions. Which do you think are actually useful? The most useful question was question 6. What do you know about our company? This demonstrates that they took the time to research about the company, which is a good sign, at least better than the previous questions. The hiring manager's dilemma. They have an attraction to the first date format. Huffcut explains when an interview is being conducted, the interviewer is basing the image of the ideal candidate on themselves. It's easy to understand why companies would be so drawn to the first date interview format. After all, a manager will be spending a lot of time with the person they hire. They want to make sure the person is a good fit. And Huffcut explained, we have a notion of the ideal employee that we want to hire. My connection to HR. According to the Healthcare Manager's Human Resources Handbook, many interviewers make up their mind about candidates during the first few contacts, and the remainder of the interview does little to change their mindset. This statement goes back to the first impressions and how important they are to employers looking to hire you. Solutions for managers. Managers need to overcome their diagnosis bias when attempting to choose an ideal candidate. Hupkett points out a compelling case that managers would be better off hiring someone unlike them, so that if the manager falls short, the potential new hire can pick up where he or she is lacking. Managers should hold off on asking first date questions and instead focus on job-related hypothetical scenarios. It is important to focus on relevant data that will acknowledge the candidate's experience and ability to show off their skills. It also points out that everyone expects an interview, so once you've identified your top candidate, it is advised to use an unstructured interview to get to know them better. Solutions for the interviewee. Dear potential candidate, I hope you arrive on time and are dressed to demonstrate how you feel you'd like to present yourself. Please do not be intimidated or scared for our first meet. It is important that you understand how my first impression of you will affect my decision greatly. It isn't my fault completely. It is my diagnosis bias that allows me to identify you as the first trait that I consider you as. The questions I ask may not make sense, but if you have done some research on our company and show that you are eager to learn, you will do fine. I have already looked over your skills and accomplishments and look forward to meeting with you face to face. Sincerely, Hiring Manager. My connection to healthcare. As the future healthcare leaders we all aspire to be, it is important for us to understand the process of hiring a potential employee for the practice we will be working for. We will be in both positions as the interviewee and the manager, so it is helpful to understand each end. As healthcare leaders, we will be hiring candidates to create organizations that will allow our patients to receive the best care. This is why it is important for us to choose the ideal candidate.